After World War II, America entered a new era of social customs, economy, newfound rights, and a huge shift in the role of women.
As for the role of women, they gained the right to vote, began to enter the workforce, and evolved in an all-new overall look, head to toe.
In the 1920s, a new woman was born. She smoked, drank, danced, and voted. She cut her hair, wore makeup, and went to petting parties. She was giddy and took risks. She was a flopper.
Women's fashions in the early 1920s experienced dramatic changes as well. The passing of bustles and corsets gave clothing designers much greater freedom of expression, resulting in an innovative styling. Women dressing in the new and colorful fabrics echoed the joy felt by a weary war population following the end of hostilities.
The most common attire for women in the 1920s was either a chiffon dress or a bold blouse and pleated knee-length skirt. Most flappers' dresses were short, loose, and box-hung with no waistline. Throughout the 1920s, the seams rose and fell, but the most popular and well-known style stopped right above the knee, which helped women move while dancing.
Tunic tops and sweaters reaching the hips were extremely popular. The hip-length sweater mirrored the dropped waist look for dresses and skirts. The general design mode and aim was to take emphasis away from the hips and to some extent the female shape. This is a defining look for the 1920s woman. As the hemlines rose higher, a greater emphasis was placed on stockings and shorter dresses that made legs the focal point. There was an increase in production of silk stockings as a flesh color. Bowie fashion and seam stockings were worn in white silk as well as tan and beige. Artificial silk and cotton as well as colored stockings were worn towards the end of the 1920s.
Prior to 1920, wearing makeup could be a dangerous proposition. Besides containing dangerous chemicals, it was not proper for nice girls to wear makeup. Those who did wore pale, muted colors and hid their supplies away from disapproving fathers and husbands.
The bob will forever be defined as the 1920s look, as the female revolution quickly abandons old rules of femininity and fashion. After the personal freedom allotted to them during World War I, young women went out to work, got permission to vote, play sports, and even got to leave the house. Wow. Women are becoming emancipated and financially independent, especially since so many men had been lost to the war or died from the epidemic in the years that followed. Giving up long hair becomes a symbol of independence and strength equal to men. The essential part of a 1920s man's wardrobe was his suit. For day, evening, office, or parties, a man always wore his suit. The only exceptions were for blue-collar workers or young teen and college men who dressed more casually. But even they owned suits and wore them with pride. What set 1920s men's suits apart from other decades are the material and the fit. Suits were mostly made of thick wool or a wool tweed, and pants made of wool-based flannel, which made them heavier than today's suits materials but lighter than the previous decades.
Fashion icons of the 1920s. Coco Chanel, born Gabrielle Chanel in Saumur, France in 1883. She perhaps had the most lasting legacy of any designer of the 1920s. Chanel's famous style borrowed from menswear 2 or 3-piece suits. Unlike masculine versions, her women's suits had surprising details like matching blouses, fashionably lined jackets, and pleated skirts. Elsa Schiaparelli, often considered Coco Chanel's biggest rival, originally Schiaparelli designed sweaters, jackets, and skirts. She became the most famous for her coveted black knit sweaters with white bow tie design. Jean Patel, French designer who made a huge mark on fashion world. He invented the first designer label, which outlined his pockets with a J and a P. He specialized in sportswear and designed clothes that were made for specifically different sports.